Good afternoon, folks. Derek Lalone from Model Schools here. Just a couple housekeeping things before we get going here with Val's presentation on Nearpod. Is as always, for attendance purposes, if you just go ahead and leave your name in the chat box, we'll be sure to grab your name for attendance for any of you that registered through My Learning Plan. As far as next week's webinar schedule, please keep an eye on My Learning Plan for that. We should be posting it sometime this afternoon. Or if you click the subscribe button on our channel, anytime a new feed starts, you guys will be notified. So thank you all for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Valerie Ray of the Model Schools program to present on Nearpod.
Hi, I'm Valerie Ray, and I'm with Model Schools at MORIC. I am going to take the next 30 minutes and walk you through how to use Nearpod to create actively engaging lessons that are digital and online and can be disseminated through Classroom, Google Classroom, with the product called Nearpod. Let's get started. Okay, so what is Nearpod? Nearpod is an online product that is EdLaw 2D compliant, and it can be reached at nearpod.com on any web browser, preferably the Chrome browser. A teacher can create interactive lessons in Nearpod and then put them into Google Classroom for students to work on at their own student pace, or you can conduct live lessons online with Nearpod as well. Okay, so I'm at the landing page here. This is nearpod.com. What we're going to do is we're going to sign in. If you don't have a Nearpod license subscription, you can sign up for free, but just know that your free access is going to be limited. I have a district user access through the RIC, so I'm going to be able to show you all the capabilities of Nearpod. Let's go ahead and log in. Okay. I am actually going to log in with my Google account associated with the RIC. And this is how you would do it. They're going to also ask, okay. This takes you straight into your Nearpod account. And I just want to go over the interface. I want you to know that if you ever get lost within a product online, I always direct people back here to the home or the house. I call it the house, the home icon. It always brings you back to this view. Okay. So what is on this view? Let's come up here to the upper right corner. This is where your profile is. So if you click on it, it tells you what level of user you have with Nearpod. It also gives you account preferences, wish list, following, and then you can also contact Nearpod directly. But what I want to actually have you take a look at the gear wheel, because there are some features in Nearpod that A, have been added, and B, there's some interesting features in here that you can use, and it will benefit your students. So for example, we can always look at our profile, and of course we know, we can select what grade, teacher information, our first name, last name. But if you come over here and you click on the advanced, we'll click on advanced, and you're going to notice that there are some advanced features that you can turn on and off. So one of the newer features that I really like, that I think is most beneficial for those students that need the support, is enabling the Immersive Reader. Okay, so the Immersive Reader improves reading and comprehension on all Nearpod created slides and select activities. This setting will only apply to new lesson codes and is only available in the web browser. Okay, so if you want to enable the Immersive Reader, I'm going to go ahead and enable it because I want to show you what that feature is. All right, so I just turned it on. The other things that I have turned on, Enable Student Notes at the high school level. I think this is a really important feature because it allows students to actually take notes over in the right-hand pane of the screen as they're working through their Nearpod presentations. We can show quiz results in student paced mode, which is an important feature. Allow students to resubmit answers. If you don't want students to resubmit answers, you're going to turn that off because as default, it comes in on. You want to enable Collaborate for students' pace lessons, which is a really neat feature as well. Students will be able to post text and images to a collaborative board in student paced mode. Students' posts cannot be pre-approved and will be immediately visible to everyone with access to the same student-paced lesson code. So that's kind of like a feature you might want to think about if you have a group of students. You're not quite sure what they're going to post. You may not want to enable that. But I would enable it just because if students were going through a presentation at their own pace, they'll be able to actually put notes or put kind of like a collaborative board, be able to post some of their thoughts onto a collaborative board, and everyone will be able to see it. It's just you as a teacher, you're not going to be able to moderate that. But I'm going to leave it on because I do have a demo that I want to show you how that's actually going to work. Okay, so there's our settings. Now, we found those settings up here underneath our profile, and we went to the gear wheel. All right, so I did make changes, but that's going to stay on, so we're not going to have to do anything more. Next thing I'm going to do is I want to go over to my library and my home and go back home and take a look at my user interface here. All right, so across the top, you're going to see here's a little plus sign where I can actually create my own Nearpod. Once you get to be like a super user, you're going to be using this all the time because you can create lessons in Google Slides. I'm going to show you how that works. We're going to create lessons in Nearpod. We can actually create folders, and then we can create subplans. You're going to notice that I've utilized the folder area here because I have several different areas of where I've created folders for specific content and housed Nearpod presentations in those folders. You can also color code those folders, which is actually kind of a nice, let's see, I think right here. You actually add a color to the actual folder, which is what I just did. I'm going to go back to my lessons, and you're going to notice the folder right here. I'm sure there's another shortcut way to do that, but for here, I just clicked on the folder and did in the cookie crumb trail, there was an area where I could actually assign a color to that folder. Okay, let's talk about this menu over here to the left. When you first log in and you're first in here, like I said, it gives you your user access right here and the subscription or the subscription app access that you have. Of course, there's always a button that says any kind of news, and if you want to update your subscription, you can do it here. Lesson code, if there was a code that or a lesson that you wanted to actually take a look at or join a lesson, you could do it from your teacher login right here. The next section, Nearpod Lesson Library, School Library, and District Library. Some of you aren't going to see the District Library because you're not going to have a district user access. I have a district user access, so I will see that in my left-hand pane. You may have a school library access, but if you don't have either of those and you just have the gold or the silver, you're probably only going to see a Nearpod Lesson Library. We're going to take a look at that in a minute. Of course, as you move down the menu, you see other areas where you can create subplans, English language learners, Nearpod lesson labs, digital citizenship and literacy. These are just some of the other areas that there are some great presentations created by Nearpod authors that are available to use as lessons. It just breaks them down into categories here, basically. I want you also to notice there's an area for reports. We will talk about that toward the end of the recording. There's teacher resources, facts, and what's new. What I want to do is I want to take a moment and I actually want to look at the Nearpod Lesson Library. So if you go ahead and you click on Nearpod Lesson Library, you're going to notice that you have a banner up here at the top that basically runs through some of the new and upcoming lessons that have been created. Also, if you find that there's a favorite publisher that just seems to have the right kind of lessons that you like, you can always click by publisher and it'll break down the lessons by specific publishers. By Nearpod, premium packages, holidays, and events, and then of course also there's the Nearpod VR. That's always an exciting area to explore. What I like to do though is I like to actually start out by searching. Let's just say we're going to talk about space. All right, I'm just going to put search in here. I'm going to search space and just kind of take a look to see what's popping up. I have some different grade levels, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, exploration of the moon. That's a grade 1. So all sorts of different Nearpod presentations that you can look at. So what you're going to do is you're going to find one that maybe looks like something that you might want to use. I'm going to use this Outer Planets just because I want to take a look at it. Once you mouse over it, notice that it pops up a little bit larger. Notice you also have a little area down here in the bottom left-hand corner. It says Preview Lesson. Let's go ahead and click on that. We're going to preview this lesson. Okay. What I really like about the preview, or when you go in and you take a look at some of these Nearpod lessons, you have related content that always shows up in a right-hand pane over here that allows you to actually kind of scroll through and say, hey, you know, maybe there's something more I want to add to this particular unit that we're studying with Nearpod. There's also about this lesson, there is, you know, an area that really just describes what is going on within this lesson. And there should be down toward the bottom, I can't get to it, some standards that could be aligned, that should be aligned to this lesson as well. If not, we're going to actually take a look at that because you can search by New York State standards. All right, as I'm looking through this particular lesson, I see preview, so I'm going to click it. It takes me to teacher background and preparation. That's kind of just a slide just for the teacher. And you can actually scroll through the different areas within this particular area. All right. Some of these slides you can edit and you can actually take some of these things out. So if you like some of the things that are in these Nearpod lessons, we can actually edit them and take them out. Okay, so essential questions. What are the unique features of our outer planets and our solar system? Learning objectives. As you scroll through, you're going to see what the lessons are about. You as a teacher, you're going to be able to do this. Here's a Let's Get Engaged. What does that mean? Oh, this is a draw it slide. So what do you already know about the planets? Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Draw or write what you know. So this is an interactive slide for the students to actually explain to you or tell you what they already know about these planets. Okay. Well, I'll show you what that looks like when we get there. There's a Think, Pair, Share activity that you can use. Of course, this might be something if your classes really aren't meeting in the same place and you're not physically in class. This might be something that maybe you might want to delete, but you might want to keep it in too. So it's entirely up to you. Let's explore. Here's another one. 3D models. On the next four slides, you'll explore 3D models of the 4 outer planets in our solar system. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so this actually looks like it is a video. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so that video is in there. Notice we're only on 12 of 33 slides. Here's another video. So this might be something that maybe you don't want to use all at once, or maybe it could be an entire unit and you only assign a couple slides at a time. Entirely up to you. But you know what? If this is one that I want to use, I think I'm just going to add it to my library. And then I'm going to keep looking. So if I click Add to my library, it now gives me a little banner at the top that says Successfully Added. So now I'm going to say, okay, show me in my library where it is. So if I find it in my library, if I click on this button, it takes me back. It did not take me back to where I needed to go. So I can come back up here to my library, my home. Interesting. And notice this one right here is the one that I just added. If I really wanted to put this into a folder, let's say I was looking for a science folder. I don't really have a science folder, so let's create one. Let's go to plus. I want to create a folder. I'm going to say middle school science. Okay. And I'm going to say create. Okay, middle school science has been added. I'm going to go back to my lesson area here through my cookie crumb trail. And I'm going to say, where's my middle school science? Right here. I actually want to color that one. I'm going to color this one. Let's put it orange. All right, go back to my lessons. All right, it's right here. So all I'm going to do, see this? All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, left click, and drag it to that folder. Now I've done some organization. All right. So Nearpod lets you organize things as well. And I really love that feature because it's really probably new within the last 12 months. All right. So let's say I want to go back and I want to do some more searching. Notice over here on the left-hand side, there is an area where you can select by standard or state. I'm going to switch to math now. So I'm going to go down to New York. I'm going to click on New York. And I'm going to say, all right, I want to find some math standards to search by. And I'm going to go 5th grade. All right. So now I've filtered for New York State. I filtered for math. I filtered for 5th grade. I also want to filter for the strand. Let's say I'm looking for something very specific. I want grade 5 NBT B7 standard. Sounds very specific, but I think if you notice, it's one of the most frequently tested standards for grade 5 in math. So this might be something that I want to make sure that my kiddos are really understanding and mastering. So if I go down and I find NBT B7, NBT, all right, so here's just NBT 7. That's about as close as I'm going to get. If I select this one, it now brings up, okay, a couple different, maybe 3 of them. If I put the resource type down here, I'm really kind of I'm really filtering down. So if I don't put a resource, it's going to give me everything that relates to this particular standard. So let's just say, all right, what is decimal value? Maybe that's something that I want to look at. So I'm going to mouse over, I'm going to preview lesson. And I'm going to take a look at this to see if this is something that I want my kids to practice. So what's really interesting on here is that when you bring it up to preview, notice over here you have a standards link on the right-hand menu pane, and then you also have related content. Right now we're in right now we're in standards because it's blue. These are all the standards that this particular Nearpod lesson touches on. All right. If I wanted to click on related content, there are some additional presentations that were created by the Nearpod team as well. Okay, let's go back to standards because I was really specific. I wanted to be able to really focus in on standard 5, New York, math, grade 5, NBT 7. So using concrete models of drawing and strategies based on place value, properties of operations, and or the relationship between operations. Okay, that kind of lays out what the standard is. So let's take a minute. We're going to actually kind of look through this. We're going to preview, right? So 31 slides to this particular presentation. Again, you're not going to lay out all 31 slides in one time. So you can actually tell students, okay, we're going to break this up. I want you to go through slides 1 through 5, or get to the first activity and stop there. All right. We'll show you what that looks like when you assign that kind of thing in Google Classroom. So as we look through this essential question, how do we use place value and decimals in the real world? In this lesson, you will read and write decimal values, identify patterns on the place value charts. Okay, so those learning objectives are ones that you want. And let's get started. The slide 6 looks like it's an interactive slide. What is a decimal value? What do you really know about place value? Use pictures and words, share what you know. Okay. Here is your interactive slide. This is a drawing slide again. Where would someone need to know how to read decimals? Think of one idea and illustrate it below. Notice one thing I want you to notice is that the tools that the kids are going to have. So depending on what device that they're on, if they're on a touch Chromebook or a touch screen, some of these drawing tools are going to be very intuitive for them. If not, and they're on Chromebooks or they're on just a regular laptop, they're going to have to use the mouse if they want to use the drawing. What I do like about this, though, is that there is a text feature right here. So if they click on it, it'll bring up a text box for them to type their answers in. The other thing that I really like about this, too, is that there is an area where they can actually bring in an image. And that image, it'll take them out. They can search an image that's really going to relate to what it is that they want to place within their drawing library. Okay. Real world decimals. Oh, this one's a VR. Okay, virtual reality. Got a little excited there. All right, virtual reality. So what this is actually an area where people actually have to know place value. Digital properties, 360cities.net. Doesn't really say where this is. Maybe it did on the last slide. Okay, but this is a VR piece where students are able to scroll through. They can zoom in. They can take a look to see what people are doing. And then, of course, you as a teacher can always ask questions related to this. To me, this looks like a bookstore of some sort. Okay, we can go on to the next one. Here's an open-ended question that follows this virtual reality field trip, basically. Where's another place you might find decimal values? Describe the place and tell me about the numbers you might find. So in other words, that might have been a library of some sort. Right. Okay, ready, enter your answer here. Again, students should be able to type their answers in using the drawing tools. Okay, so maybe this becomes one that you like, right? You add to my library again. Now it should be in your library. This button here says show in my library, but if it doesn't take you there, this time it did take us back there. No, it didn't. That's odd. Click on my library up here. There it is. It's now in your area here. What I like about this is that once you mouse over any one of these that you save, you actually have the 3 little dots up here in the top right-hand corner, and that allows you to either share, duplicate, add to the school library or folder. You can export as a PDF. You can actually export your reports, and then you can also delete it as well. Okay, we'll go on to the next step. Let's take a second and talk about how can we create our own Nearpod presentation in Nearpod and then kick it out to Google Classroom. So what I did, I already have an example created. I'm going to come over here. This is a grade, I gotta move my picture. This is actually a grade 5 module 5 lesson 7 exit ticket for Eureka Math. Let's go ahead and open this up. Actually, if I mouse on it, I want to actually edit. So if I click on edit, it'll take me to my edit section. Move myself back over. Okay, so here you're going to notice I only have 2 slides, but it's really easy actually to create a Nearpod presentation. I wouldn't go overboard. If you're going to create from scratch, I would start out really small, 2 slides, 3 slides, until you really get a hang of what it is and how you're putting it together, and the feel of it, even for the students too. So you're going to notice these 2 slides I have here. I have a title slide, and then I have a draw it slide. When you go to add a slide, you have your little menu bar up here. You can add a slide, you can copy a slide. If you just want to go ahead and add, actually you click on the first add slide button, square, and you have the option to add content. You have the option to add web content, which includes video, and then also activities. If we decided that we wanted to add content, we could click on content and scroll through to take a look at what we have access to. So we can actually put a slideshow together by bringing in 3 or 4 different images in a slideshow kind of way. We could actually maybe we just want to create, our first slide, our title slide. So let's select the first one that says slide. So here, this is kind of interesting. I have a title slide, but I already have a theme that's associated with my presentation too, because I created it before. But you'll notice that over here on the right-hand side, there is a little task pane that actually has several different themes that you can use to create your Nearpods. I used the title paragraph here with this background. Also notice down here at the bottom, you have the option to change the background of your slide. Okay, you can either pull in an image, you can upload an image, you could search for an image, and then just add that to your background. You also have the option of changing the layout. So you can have just one continuous slide, just one slide, or you can title in one element. You could add a slide with 4 elements. You can add a slide with a title and 2 elements. So you can switch through what kind of elements you want to add to that particular slide. You also have the option of creating an audio file. So you could record yourself, which is really neat, and then audio recorder. And then, of course, there's an option here to preview to see what this looks like. So I have a slide here that I want to add some text to, and then show you how the Immersive Reader actually works in Nearpod. I have this slide, right? This was a slide that I wanted to add some text. But if I click on this plus button right here, it gives me the option to say, all right, you're going to add text, video, image, or a GIF image. So I want to add some text. I'm going to click on Add Text, and it opens up a box, right, that allows me to actually put some text in here. So I actually copy and pasted, and here's the text that I have on this slide. I am going to take a little bit, I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to make it a little larger. I would like to see what that looks like. Okay, so now that I have it, I want to preview it. I want to see what this actually is going to look like with the Immersive Reader. So if I come down here to my menu at the bottom, I click on the preview button, and it'll preview my slide. And then what I need to do here, up here in the right-hand corner, because remember we were up in the settings and in the gear wheel, we enabled the Immersive Reader. If we go ahead and we click on this, it will pop to a new screen. And here is the play button. All we have to do is hit play.
The little brown bear went into the kitchen to find a snack. When he opened up the refrigerator, he was pleasantly surprised at the number of honey containers he found on the second shelf.
And so to go back to the slide, we click this back arrow, and it now takes us back to where we were before. Okay, so that's how the Immersive Reader will work. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to save this. And it'll say file processing, and it takes us back to our area, where our edit area, basically. If we wanted to add more slides, we would just click more slides. The nice thing about this, though, is that we can also rearrange slides by clicking and dragging them around. So if I want my number 1 slide to be my draw it slide, we could go ahead and do that. I kind of want to leave it there. This one really has nothing to do with the exit ticket, but I wanted to show you how the Immersive Reader works. What I am going to do is I'm going to delete it now. So all I have to do is select it, delete slide. Yes, I want to delete that slide, and now I am back to my original Nearpod presentation. At this point, I'm going to come down here at the bottom, save and exit. And now my Nearpod is ready to go. So what I want to do, if I mouse over it again, it's already saved, correct? I want to mouse over it again. And if I wanted to issue, if I was in class and I wanted to issue a live lesson, I could actually do that right from here by just clicking on live lesson. If I want to do a student paced lesson, and I have the ability to do that with the subscription level that I have, I am just going to actually select student paced. Okay. So student paced, what that does is it gives you a join code, right? And it'll tell you that this code is valid until April 17th. So there are 29 days remaining for this valid code to stay good. So when students are able to actually go back to it, maybe they are not going to get to it, today or tomorrow, and maybe next week is the first time they're going to be able to get to this particular Nearpod presentation. Hopefully that's not the case. But just know that this code is going to be valid for this session for 1 month. Down here at the bottom, we have a few different ways to get this code to students. We can email it to them. We could actually share it out if we have a social media avenue that we want to share it with. Here's a link. We could embed it into a website if we utilize Google Sites. Google Classroom, Remind, Microsoft Teams. We want to select the Google Classroom. Okay, so I select Google Classroom, and that automatically takes me to an area in my drive that says, okay, so which class are we going to share this with? So I'm going to select the workshop example classroom because that's my classroom. And it says, what action are you going to do? Well, I want to create an assignment. So I'm going to create the assignment. It gives me a little blue button down here. It says go. So go ahead and click on the blue button. And it takes me to an area where I'm actually going to title my assignment, because remember, this is going to show up in Classroom. So this is Grade 5, Mod 5, Lesson 7, Exit Ticket. All right. If I want to put instructions here to the students, I can do that. Please open the following Nearpod presentation and work through the example. All right, so I don't have to do anything as far as Nearpod because it's already has my code down here. It'll attach itself to the actual assignment. The only thing that I have to do is come over here to the right-hand side, make sure that this is the class I want. If I want to kick this out to a couple different classes, I can. I could just select another class. If I want to only choose a few students, I can. Right now, I don't have the list of students, so all students in my classes are going to get them. But you as teachers, and you'll have a list of classes that your students, you'll have a list of students that are in your classes. And if you want to differentiate, you can actually select which students you want this particular activity to go to. Points, if you want to grade it out of a certain amount of points, you can set that there. Here's the due date. Remember, the code is only good for a month, so you might want to choose the due date. Let's just say I want this available the 23rd, or until the 23rd this assignment is due. Time option if you want to do that. The other thing, though, that I really highly suggest is if you haven't created topics in your Google Classroom, it's a great way to organize. I'm going to create a topic that's going to say exit tickets in Nearpod, because you know what, this might be the way that I actually do some sort of formative assessment to see if students are actually learning what they're supposed to be learning with my lessons that I deliver to them. So this becomes my exit ticket in my formative assessment. So I'm going to keep that. The other thing that I have to do, I can actually assign this, schedule it, save it as a draft, or discard it. I'm going to go ahead and assign it. And so now it'll say, well, let's view this in your classroom. So if I click on view, my classroom pops up. Here is my assignment. This is the one that I just posted, right? So if I click on it, if I go to the instructions, these are the instructions. Students are to open it up. Student work will be listed over here. So now the assignment is there. If students are to click on this, the assignment, this is what they're going to see. All right, so they have to actually list their name. So I'm just going to put my name in there. Anything other is optional, but that's up to you and how you want students to actually name themselves. I probably would stick with, their first name. Remember, this is EdLaw 2D compliant, and if you have a paid version, it's okay to go ahead and use the student's first name. So we want to join this session. And notice my Immersive Reader pops up here. If I wanted to have this read to me, I could. Remember, I just come down here.
Grade 5, Module 5, Lesson 7, Exit Ticket.
Okay, so that's how that Immersive Reader will work. I actually will scroll through this because it's student paced. So now I go to the next one, and this is where I actually will do my work down here. I gotta move things over here so you can see. The other thing too is when you go to create a draw, remember that little square that's up here in the left-hand corner? It basically says you can add an image, like the space one, I used an image of Saturn. Well, this one, it allowed me to actually do a voice recording. So what I ended up doing was I ended up reading this aloud so that when you play it, a storage shed is a rectangular prism and has dimensions of 6 meters by 5 meters by 12 meters. What I like about that is that you're able to play your voice. If you use the Immersive Reader, which is already enabled, right, you can actually click on that. It'll take it out. And of course, the student can come down here.
A storage shed is a rectangular prism and has dimensions of 6 meters by 5 meters by 12 meters. If Jean were...
Okay, so you have the option to do both. I will tell you that I've often heard students say that they really like to see their teacher and they also like to hear their teacher. So just keep that in mind. All right, so this is where students would actually draw out whatever they would draw out and then they would submit. Now they can type right here, excuse me, and they can type their answer and submit. So again, I'm Valerie Ray, and I hope you have gotten something out of this 30-minute tutorial on utilizing Nearpod in the classroom and for online learning. If you have any questions, anyone at Model Schools at the RIC can help you with this, or email me direct, vray@moric.org. Have a great afternoon.
Hey folks, we're just going to hang out here for a few minutes in case any of you guys have any questions. And if you don't, like I said before, be on the lookout for my learning plan. We're running A lot of new and different sessions next week. So keep your eyes out, and thanks for joining us.